How are you? Are you having fun? Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. It's a very exciting event. You all have a lot of energy, and it's really great to be here. My name is Silvano. I'm a developer programs engineer on the Actions on Google and Google Assistant Developer Relations team. And what we're going to see in the next 20 minutes or so are some of my favorite features, like things that we added to Actions on Google since we announced it almost a year ago. If you missed the overview of the Actions on Google platform, yesterday my colleague Daniel Imrie Sutuyanake gave the developing conversational apps for the Google Assistant using Actions on Google talk. It's on YouTube. I strongly recommend you to watch it if you want to see a more organic description of the platform. So let's start with a little bit of history of the platform. It's almost 1 year old. We announced it on December 8, 2016, which means that next week, it will be our first birthday. And what we told you was that you could start extending the Google Assistant by writing up using Actions on Google. Initially, they would work only on the Google Home speakers. At I/O in May is when we did the second batch of announcements where we added things like support on phones using the Assistant app and the transactions and payments preview. And then if you see, like in this second half of our first year of life, the platform is starting to get momentum. There's more announcement, and the scope of the announcement is getting larger and larger. And we added more locales. So I think now we support 16 locales. We added the speaker-to-phone transfer. We added easier app personalization, SSML, and we will see in some more detail like a lot of these features. So let's start by looking at this highlight reel of my personal favorites. I divided them into two groups. The first group is 3 things that we did to make your life easier, to make the life of anyone that's trying to develop an app on Actions on Google easier. Starting with actually making it extremely easy for you to create certain type of apps. For apps, there are trivia games where you ask questions to user and you score them based on the number of correct answers that they get. Apps that are personality quizzes where you ask them questions that get a score against trait of their personality so that at the end you can tell them, oh, you are very brave and also you are very cute, or stuff like that. And flashcards, which are apps where basically you can ask yourself a series of questions to reinforce the learning of a certain topic that you are studying. You don't have to write a single line of code. You don't have to design a single turn of a conversation of a voice user interface. We have implemented all of that for you, and the only thing that you need to do is provide content in a Google spreadsheet by copying a template that we will provide to you. But let me show it to you. Let's see how I can create a trivia quiz here on stage in 2-3 minutes, I'd say. So this is the Actions on Google console. It's where you start when you want to create an app on Actions on Google. If you are already familiar with it, you can recognize the first 3 options are the standard options, Dialogflow or Converse.ai if you want to delegate the natural language processing to one of these 2 services, or Action SDK if you want to take care of the NLP on your own. The second row is the templates. And let's try with the trivia, as I said. So let's start building one trivia app. The first thing that we did for you is we built different personas, so different ways that your agent can present itself to the user. And you can get a preview of how these are different in the way they have background music and in the way they talk to the user. So, for example, let's try the Regal Queen. Do I have audio?
Informed me that this game has come to an end. My advisor will now calculate your results.
So this is how the Regal Queen sound, and if you want to try the robot...
I call that a right answer. I guess that's the end. Now let's see how well you did.
And so on. And basically, you can see like how your app will sound like to the user. Let's, for our app, choose the Regal Queen, go to the next tape. This is where we are asked to upload our content using one of the sheets. And so if we just press, we get the link to the template that we have. All we need to do is make a copy of this template and wait for Google Docs to load. And this is basically how creating a quick look. You just have a series of questions, a series of correct answer and incorrect answer, where with suggestion chips, we will propose all of the three to the user. And then on some question, you can even have a follow-up to get them more hints on what could be the correct answer. If I wanted to add one here, let's say it could be a true or false. Silvano has a long beard. And the correct answer, I guess, is true. And the incorrect answer is false. So once you change the content, the only other thing that you need to change is the name, the title of your app in the configuration, because, of course, we cannot have duplicates, and especially you cannot use the same title that the template itself has. And so we could call this GDD India Trivia Game. And now I'm done. All I need to do is copy the URL of this sheet, go back, hit next, paste it, and upload it. Now, the template is validating the content. Our content was uploaded successfully. We can go on and create the app. And once the app is created, we will be able to test it. We're almost there. There we are. So now I can click Test App. And this is, I don't know if you've already seen it, or if you know it, this is our simulator that we have in the Actions on Google Console that allows you to test your app, all your apps. At this point, if you have the Assistant app on your phone, or if you have a speaker, and you're logged in with the same user that you used to create the project, you could also test this app on the phone or on the speaker. The standard invocation for an app under test is talk to my test app, and let's see what happens.
Sure, let's get the test version of my test app.
It is my honor to introduce you to GDD India Trivia Game. It is time to run the gauntlet. Let's begin. Your first question is here. The TV show American Idol aired for how many seasons?
Anyone wants to try? 15? Let's see. Wow.
Stupendous. Question number 2 is coming up. What are the official languages of Canada?
OK, I guess we can stop here. But the game is there, and it's working. And the other thing that is interesting at this point is if you wanted to proceed and publish this app, all you need to do is go back to the overview. You need to add some information for the app. This is things like what is the name of your app, what are some of the branding information, like the logo, if you have a website where you want to link the user to a privacy policy if you need one, but for the templates, we have a standard one that you can just reuse. And then you will be done. What would happen if you actually proceeded is your app will be reviewed in a faster queue, and then it will be published and available to everyone. And so these were templates. Did I say 3 minutes? Was it 3 minutes? Was it like more 5 maybe? But pretty fast, right? So going back to the presentation, the next thing that I want to talk to you about that we make easier is personalizing your app. And this is very important because when a user is having a conversation, they want it to be personal. And more important, because it's an assistant, they want to feel like that the app knows what their preferences are. And we observed developers, and there were most of them storing the information that they needed in external database. One very good candidate was Firebase, which is still like a great solution to do this. But we really wanted to make their life much easier when it came to storing the user preferences. And so we added an API to do that. An example use case is, imagine your app is providing weather report to the user. One of the first things that you will ask probably is where they live, like either by getting a zip code, which Wikipedia tells me is a postal index number here. Is that correct? Yeah. And that's, for example, something that you don't really want to keep asking your user all the time. You want to ask it the first time they start the app, and then you want to remember it forever, giving them a chance of changing it if, for any reason, they move to another country or simply another house. And so the way you would do this now with this new app that we've added, the first time that you actually get the zip code, you will ask permission to the user. Can I remember this information that you've just given me for the next time? And then if they confirm, if they reply yes, you can save it into a JSON object that can have like all the structure that you can give to a JSON object. So you can add arrays, you can add other nested objects to all the depth that you want, and then just save it. And we would just be sending it back to you all the time, so that all the time you can access that information. And so, for example, like in the next time that the user is using your app, you can also check if you already have that information and skip all the code that is asking them, can I get that information? Another thing that we added is an SSML simulator. I don't know if you're familiar with SSML. SSML stands for Speech Synthesis Markup Language. It's an XML-based language that basically allows you to give us some text, and then our agent will read it to the user. But what you can do with SSML is not just control the text, what you want us to say to the user, but also how you want us to say it to the user. You can add music, you can add sounds, and there's many more cool things that you can do to give your app a much better and more engaging experience. It was hard to test it, because we didn't really give you an easy way. Like, you had to write some of the XML that you wanted to try, then put it in your app, run your app, and listen to it. And what we did is we added an audio tab in the simulator where you can just put the XML that you have and test it and see how the agent would be reading it. So, for example, if we look at this first example, we have some speak. We have a sound at the beginning. It's a sort of a cartoon sound. And then we are looking at changing the rate of the speech. We are looking at changing the pitch of the speak. And we are looking at changing the volume. And then there's other cool things that we can do, like we can read the number as an ordinal. So instead of saying 1, it will say first. And then we can spell a word. And this is another thing that I just show you. Let's hear it. So this is the simulator that I was talking about. It's in the Actions on Google Console simulator. You have this additional audio tab. And now all you need to do is copy and paste your XML in here, and then you will see how the agent would render it. So let's listen to this one.
High. Or you can make it low. You can make it loud. Or you can make it quiet. Or all three things at once. But first, you can make me spell colors like blue. BLUE. Edit this to try yourself.
So we missed a little bit at the beginning, but you get the gist. Do you want me to replay it to get it better? Yeah?
Hello. With SSML, you can make speech fast. Or make it slow. You can make it high. Or you can make it low. You can make it loud. Or you can make it quiet. or all three things at once. But first, you can make me spell colors like blue, BLUE. Edit this to try yourself.
And basically now you're free to experiment with all the things that you want to do. And then when you're happy with the XML that you have, you can actually incorporate it into your app. So let's, moving back to the presentation, we now move to the second group of things, which is things that we added, like new functionalities that improve the quality of the app that you can write, allowing you to do very cool stuff. And the first one is still SSML. And we added some elements that will allow you to do sound layering. So basically, you can have different tracks that you can mix at the same time, so that, for example, you can add a background music that goes in a loop while you're telling user what to do or while you're asking them some questions. And the other cool, very cool thing about this element is you can define relations between the different elements, so that, for example, you can say, I want this block to start 2 seconds after this other block, or I want this loop to be played until the end of the speech. And the next example that we have is, imagine like you have a quiz game where you want to give like some background music while you're asking some questions to your user. And what this example is doing is exactly that. We have a loop that is playing. The loop is playing until the end of the speech. And then we have a question that is asked, some hints that are given to the user with some breaks to pause, waiting for an answer. And then finally, we give the answer with an additional emphasis. And this is another one that it's better enjoyed if we actually listen to it.
When was Wikipedia launched? Was it 2000? Or 2001? Or 2002? What is your answer? It was 2001. Wikipedia was launched on the 15th of January 2001, 2 days after the domain was registered by Jimmy Wales and Larry Sanger.
And so if you see, like, you can give a pretty good atmosphere to your app by using, like, changing the inflection of the voice, having more control on how your agent presents itself to the user, but also adding background music that make the experience and the atmosphere much better. Can we go? Yeah, thank you. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is a feature that I like a lot. And it's a feature that allows you to transfer a conversation that started on a speaker to a phone. And you might want to do this for 2 different reasons. One is, in some cases, maybe you start on the speaker, but then you want to show an image to the user, and now you can do it by saying, hey, can I use your phone to show an image that will better convey my message? Or in some cases, is to give them like a better user experience. So for example, like when you want to complete a transaction or a payment. And it works a little bit like this in practice. This is actually showing one of my favorite use cases where you're ordering food. Like imagine you are in your living room, you're watching your favorite TV show, or you're watching some sports. You want to eat, you don't really want to cook, you want to get some food delivered. You can start asking what you want to get on the speaker. You can complete your order on the speaker. And then when the moment to pay comes, the app can just transfer the whole conversation to your phone, and you can finalize the transactions on your phone. And the code is quite easy. Like, there's 2 parts to it. The first part is requesting the surface transfer to the user. The way it works is we have an API that allows you to check whether the user has a device with the capability that you are requesting. So in this example, you want someone that has a screen output. If they have it, you can ask the user, hey, can I transfer to the phone, giving a reason. I want to do it, in this case, for example, because I want to show you some sample images. And then in the next step, all you have to do is handle the user response. And so if they've given consent to you to transfer to the new surface, just show the image, and if they didn't explain them, I'm sorry, but I cannot proceed if you don't allow me to do this. The last thing I wanted to talk about is a very recent addition. This was announced in November 15, and it's updates and push notifications. So a feature that allows you to re-engage with your user. It's in a developer preview right now, which means you can test it. You can use it in your test app. You cannot yet use it in your production app. We have two models of re-engagement. One is daily updates. So you can ask your user if they want to subscribe to receive daily updates from your app. So for example, let's say you have an app that is telling jokes, and you want them to receive a new joke every day. You can use this feature, and the assistant will automatically pull an update from your app every day. The way it works is you need to configure on the actions on Google an intent that you want to be called when they receive the notification. And then there's a utility function, ask to register daily update for that specific intent. And if the user consents, you basically are ready. At some point, you will start receiving every day a request from Google. One thing that is important here is there is no guarantee that even if you ask the user to register, they will see this request. Google will decide when to show it to the user. And basically, we want to make sure that a user is engaged with your app before we present your request, because also this means that for you, there's a much higher chance of them actually wanting to subscribe to receive the updates. The other model is a more standard push notification model that allows you to send asynchronously updates to the user whenever you have content that you want to push. And so, for example, imagine you have an app that is tracking tasks that the user might have to do. One of these tasks could be they have to pay a fine because they parked in the wrong spot. In 1 week, the fine will expire. They haven't paid it yet. You want to let them know that, hey, you have 1 week to pay this thing. And it works pretty much in the same way. Like, this is more or less exactly the same code that you've seen. There's two main differences. The way you ask for the permission is a different function. In this case, is ask for update permission. You still need to specify an intent that you want to use for this. And then once you get the consent, you need to save the ID of the user in a database like Firebase or whatever it is that you are using to store data for your app, because that user ID is how you will be able to target the user to receive the notification. When it comes to sending the notification, it's an HTTP API. This is an example of how you would send a notification using some JavaScript code. But basically, you just need an access token that you generate from a service account. You just need to structure the JSON payload of the notification, which is quite simple. You just need a title, and then the user ID of the user that you want to target, and the intent that you've enabled for push notification. And then it's just an HTTP request. When they receive the notification appears as a system tray notification on the Android app. And when the user clicks on it, it deep links into the conversation using the intent that you specified for the notifications. So that was it. Those were like my 6 highlights from the things that we've added. If you are interested, these are some resources that you can use to keep an eye on what's happening on Actions on Google, our developer community, our developers documentation, and the Twitter account. Thank you for being here with me and not going to lunch, I guess. And the last thing is, if you have any questions on this or more, we will be at the sandbox, the assistant sandbox, all the afternoon. So just come and ask us questions. Thanks. Bye.